in my life, I have applied to a lot of companies, not just in India. My favorite place is Berlin. I would someday I'll go there and work. So I just wanted to be there, and I started applying in Germany, more like, or in Europe, or all mostly, but mostly in Berlin. So, and overall here also in Google also I got rejected once before. So what I thought, can I help users, or can I help designers getting shortlisted at least, let's say, because interviews are so subjective most of the time. Sometimes people like you because of something, but sometimes not. It's so subjective. It's so sometimes I feel, I mean, it's not a word to use, but I feel this is a luck also.
Hey friends, welcome to Product Stories, the podcast that delves into the minds of product and design folks to talk about their stories, challenges, and work. My name is Kaushik, and in each episode, I talk to my guests to find out how they work, the process they follow, learn about new tools, and understand the breakthroughs they have had in their career. This week, our guest is Murari Jha, who's currently a UX designer in Google. He has previously worked in notable companies such as Headout, Instamojo, and Bookmyshow. We talk about design systems, few very interesting design case studies from his Instamojo days, and what it's like to work in Google. So sit back and relax, make a cup of coffee or tea, and enjoy the episode. Hey MJ, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad you're here. The first time I came across you was when I think you did a live or a video with King Siddharth, and I really loved how much you care about design and the depth of knowledge that you have in the field and everything. So, and an incredible experience, man. So I just thought I'll get you to the show because I'm sure there's so much value that you can add in this episode. But before we go ahead, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, thanks very much for having me here. Yeah, so I am Murari, and currently I am working at Google Pay and looking at some features of Google Pay, right? And I have been into design for a long time. I mean, it's 8 or 9 years. I started my career as a front end designer because at that time, the scene was, if you are not a web designer who doesn't know code and design both, it was hard for getting a job. So that's why I learned the coding as well and started the job as front end developer. And that's how I started my journey. Then over the time, I realized that design is my thing. So I totally moved. I left the coding part. So, and yeah, before Google, I worked at Headout, Bookmyshow, and some other startups like Instamojos. And yeah, I also spent some time in agencies where I was just working for clients, mostly from outside of India. So that was also fun. So yeah, that's about me, man.
Yeah, I mean, you made it a very short intro, but that's like a long experience with a lot of projects and features which you've overseen in your
Yeah.
career. So I mean, on the same lines, right? Thinking about my first question is that you have pretty much worked in organizations of all scales, whether it was at Instamojo, Bookmyshow, Headout, and now Google. You also work with an agency and all these things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What are some of the differences that you notice, and what is it that you enjoyed in each of these roles?
Yeah. So the major difference which I noticed was, the, you can say, the culture and also the processes, right? The other thing I noticed was, it's about, that sometimes the startups are really fast, right? They do things very quick, and but at the large scale or the larger companies, sometimes it is not going to happen because everything is so systematic. So you'll have to follow the process. The other change which I'll say I noticed was, in startups, you have that chance to learn a lot about a lot of different things, but at a large scale or large companies, still you can learn, but again, that are like the way are really narrow or compact. Like, you have something, you will have to work on that part, and if you need something, let's say, if I am a visual designer, I am working on that part. If I need some research, I can't do that myself, I'll have to go to the team. These days in startups also there are teams for that specific thing, but I mean, I think there are advantages and disadvantages of both. So these are the few changes I have noticed in all of these things. The another one which I'll say is the scale of the user base, right? Sometimes in large companies, the user base is so huge. When you do something, you think about like, okay, this is what is going to happen. So you take care of the things very very, think about that thing like very deeply, and then do the things. There are people who will think, okay, should we launch this for all of the users? Like, I mean, it's really really huge. So let's say in a startup you are launching this for 5% versus the like Google launching it for 5%. It's a very big difference. So yeah, these are the few things which I have noticed. Otherwise, the processes are kind of same. Somewhere it's someone is just missing or skipping something, but kind of same. You do like design the same way.
Interesting. But I'm curious, like, what did you enjoy? Was it like, building at speed, or was it like, following like, processes and
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
it's
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's about time basically. So sometimes you wherever you are, you just enjoy a few things. So I will say I have enjoyed both of the part, right? At times you just need to do everything. You are so curious about things, right? You just want to explore and explore. But then again, there are times where you just want to be a specialist kind of thing, or maybe just focus on a single part, right? Just a one part, uh, just one part about the whole system, and you just want to go deep inside that. So I'll say I have enjoyed both of the parts at places. Also, I like at few places culture was not so good, so that also I'll raise. But at most of the company, I found really good people. So I'll say the people and culture I have enjoyed most in most of the companies.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things which I found about you is that, in all the organizations that you worked with, like, and the thing is, you kind of started by having a development and coding background, right? So I'm guessing you probably started out as a journalist,
Yes,
and
yes.
now you're moved to a role more where you're a specialist. So how has that transition been? Like, what part of it did you like about the transition, and how was that transition just like? Because from what I know, generalists actually enjoy being generalist itself.
Yeah, I think I'm still a generalist, to be very
Hmm.
honest. But yes, not doing so many things. Like, but I believe being a journalist is always good. Being a specialist is hard also. Being a specialist in something. So, and again, my nature, you can say, most of the time I like exploring things, not just about work, in life also. So I just don't do one thing. I'm doing so many things. So for an example, I love cycling. I love, making cocktails and all, and then dancing. So many things in life. So I just want to explore. I love exploring. And this is how a generalist is in life and design as well, right? So the transition is not like, as I said, I'm still not a specialist, but yeah, not doing so many things because we have a team here at Google for everything, right? We go to them. Even though we prepare things, let's say if I want something, I'll prepare that this is what I want, and I go to the team and I'll say, hey, this is what I want, and just can you please do this for me? And then again, they will do things. They will create documents and come back to me that this is the result. So the only thing is I still know so many things, but because of having a team and they have their job, their job, right, to do, so I can't just go into that and just follow things like, okay, I'll also do this, even though I can. But yeah, I mean, it would be again like affecting the work, because that time I can use doing some other work, and get into deep. And so that's how I think, being a journalist, I enjoyed a lot, and still I enjoy it. If I get a chance, I do. I would love to do all of the things.
Interesting. So, I mean, something which I noticed, right, throughout your career and everything, what you have done is like you've worked on design systems, not just in one, but like multiple places. So,
Yeah.
something which I want to understand is like what design systems are and how you work with it, because I'm someone who has like absolutely no knowledge about design systems, because I work in like a company which is just like just getting started, just in it's still in that stage where we are growing, so we don't
Yeah.
have a design system, right? So I've never bothered to research about it. So if you were to explain design systems to a little layman, how would you explain it? And how was your experience in general working on it? And yeah, the
Yeah,
full
yeah.
story.
Basically, yes, exactly. I mean, this is crazy. Whenever I joined a company, most of them didn't have the design system, right? So I'll give a brief, like what most of us maybe know already. But design system is something where you have components ready in the system, and you just use those repeatedly, right? You don't need to create any component like new most of the time, right? You already have that in your system. You just pick that up and use in your design. And there are two ways. So when we say design system is not a design library. Most of the time we just create Figma, those components and everything in Figma, and we think like this is the design system, but that's not true. Design system is a design system when it's completed by both designer and developer, because they are also going to use that, right? So whenever I was working on design systems, most of the places I didn't get a chance to convert it to the coding part. We started, but at like the time I was there, we couldn't do that. So this is crazy. It was mostly library, but I had a great sense of the system, like how and why we should build it, and how much work we can save. Now there is a disadvantage also, which I feel, I don't know about others, but this is my opinion. I think it's hold back the creativity. I mean, each time you are building something, you just think about, okay, do I have this component in the system or not? You just think about that, and if that is there, you just bring it. You don't, that creativity part is not there. You just pick that up and just used it. So I think this is also one of the disadvantage sometimes, and I don't know what is the solution for this, how we can break that. So this happens most of the time. You want to do something else, you want your user to be, you know to delight them, but you can't, because you just can't create something out of the system. So yeah, this is about the design system which I know, and most of the places I just created a library not a design system, because we couldn't convert those into code. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, one of the things which I want to ask again on the same lines is like, what were a couple of challenges which you faced while building these systems, right? How did you actually go about building your first one? To be honest, that's something I actually want to ask. I think it's quite some time ago, but if you could recollect something like what challenges you faced and everything, that would be
Yeah,
very
so
interesting.
exactly. So in smaller teams, maybe, or the smaller product, right, let's say a startup, it's not that much hustle, because there are few team members, and also about the product here and there, that what we have already. uh, so it's easy at that time. But sometimes what happens, you are not alone working on design system, let's say, right? Sometimes there are two people working on that, and then you create something, and then suddenly you see, okay, this thing is not working because someone is using some different thing. Then you go talk to them, hey, we created this, why don't we use that? So that clash is something which I have noticed happens most of the time. You just build something, and then you see, okay, you tested it by yourself, okay, this is fine, this, let's say for an example, this font size is fine, this is visible for this thing, for X thing, right? But someone else is using a different style or something somewhere, and you noticed it. Then you will go and you will again tell them, okay, hey, we just need to use. So those kind of clash, I don't know whether I will be, like, I have explained it well or not, but yeah, that those clashes happens most of the time. Also, when you are building the design system, and when you want to use this in your whole design, it takes time, because it's not something which like your product is just starting. You have already built so many things, and then you will have to implement those in that part also. It doesn't matter how old they are, right? So that is also a hustle, that find out which components are there and how we can just build them and reuse. So these are the few challenges or problems which I feel happens with design system. It's easy to say, okay, let's build the design system, but using it is somewhat tough, I believe.
Yeah, true. Especially the duration it takes, which you are mentioning, right? That building a system takes a lot of time. I also think
Yeah.
that's true for maintaining a design system, because I
Yes.
remember I had this guest, Aishwarya from, she used to work in Booking.com, and she told me how if you have to make a small change in Booking.com's design system, it's almost like a 6 months process,
I
because
know.
this has to work in, like, for 120 plus languages, which, like, booking.com supports, and all, I mean, the huge scale of users they have. So it has to go like insane amount of testing and everything. So yeah, I can definitely recollect some parts of that when you were mentioning, like, how design system takes a lot of time to build.
Also, the another thing is that Google, what happens, sometimes the whole system is being updated. So let's say it was material 2 before, now it's going to be material 3. So you can't just use material 2 always, you will have to shift to that part also. Now you see, there are so many things which you need to convert into material 3, and then again you will have to use those, right? Over the time. So that's what I was talking about. It's pretty hard. And the same thing again, there are languages, multiple languages and all. So yeah.
Interesting. So I think the next question which I probably want to ask you is about your Instamojo days, right? I probably want to take a deep dive into this, because when I was going through all your previous work and stuff, Instamojo was one of the companies where, you had mentioned, like, all your success metrics and all these things,
Yeah.
how you helped with, I think, something related to UPI. And all these things,
Yeah.
right? I'm super curious to know, like, if you could probably pick, like, one or two of your favorite projects or features or whatever that you worked on, and probably if you could deep dive into that, because one thing which I believe as a designer, right, is, if it's not helping the business, I mean, you're not, I mean, you're not helping in any way, right?
Yeah.
So and I love it when there are designers who purely focus and talk about the design. I mean, not just the design aspect, but also how it helped the business, or the metrics, or the metrics for the of the product. So I would really love it if you could deep dive into one of your projects.
Yeah, man. So for first of all, the Instamojo part. Instamojo is was something, really a great thing which happened to me. Before Instamojo, I was mostly working in agency. So that was my first product company, you can say. And I was so curious. I came to Bangalore for Instamojo only. I was not in Bangalore. So many things, changed in my life. I met new people, new culture, and the Bangalore thing happened. So Instamojo was really, really, a great thing for me, and I have enjoyed a lot. And same with the project also, because I was so curious. I just wanted to explore each and everything. Now if I talk about the challenges and projects about like there, so it was really hard because even though this like first thing, that was a product company, and then again you had the users who are basically MSMEs from like those are businesses, not exactly the B2 C. It was B2B, right? Business to businesses. So the challenge was whenever you wanted to do some study, something, it was hard to talk to them or go to them. But again we did, but the toughest part it was, right? You can't just go out and just tell, hey, I just want to do research. They will say, dude, I have work. I just want to earn. Why will I talk to you and spend some time over there? So businesses were like that. Now if I talk about the success metric and those uh, thing challenges, I mean, we always thought about if we can make something better for even 10%, that help us understand what is going to work for people, right? For those businesses, and then we can change things for others as well. So for an example, let's say there are different type of businesses on Instamojo as well. Sometimes the domains I am talking about, someone is into travel, someone is into coaching, someone has some electronic shops. So the challenge was everyone thinks about like they have different thinking. They think about the product like very differently, right? And their uses are very differently. When like what they use it for, what, right? Even though there were few common things which they all were using, but again there were a lot of things which were different for them, which they did, like they had different like things to do. So this was the challenge, I'll say. Now if I talk about the, I forgot what was the another question in that,
Yeah,
related to key metrics.
yeah, yeah. So basically, like, you had mentioned, like, metrics for, like, multiple of your projects. So,
Hmm.
like, for example, you helped, like, improve 10% in users successfully generating a UPI request, right?
Yeah.
So I was hoping if you could deep dive into, like, one of these projects or something which you worked on, and understand what was the problem statement and how did you actually solve it, and how did you discover the problem statement. That's also an interesting thing, right?
Yeah, so exactly. So what happens when you go to Instamojo and you pay someone using any link of Instamojo, you see payment options, right? And there are payment options like credit card, debit card, net banking, and option for UPI as well. Even though UPI was like, I'll say 3 years back, it was not that popular. Or for like, it was getting popular, but not that people were not using that much, right? Maybe in Bangalore people started, but the rest of the part, it was not the case. So how, what we noticed, like people were tapping on UPI, but the success rate for UPI method was very very less, like very less. It was not even countable. Like we were like, okay, what is happening there? And even if we can increase some point, we can, increase the rate, and we can get benefit from that, right? So we, what I did, I observed like what is happening. First, I myself understood what UPI is, even though we all were smart and techies, but understanding the UPI was the hardest part. Like there are PSPs, there are VPA, there are UPID, these many words, man, what all those are. People don't understand those. And for that, I did some research as well. I talked to people, not just the normal, like regular business persons, but the techies as well, the people who know about UPI or already using the UPI, paying via UPI. And what I understood was no one knew what UPI is. No one knew how to use the handles or VPA handles. No one knows how many PSPs are there. So in Google Pay, if you see, there is ABC at the rate OK Access, ABC at the rate OK SDFC Bank, or different banks, right? For 3 4 banks. Those are the payment service providers, which we call PSPs. People don't know about that. They were like, okay, my bank is SDFC, but why my UPI is at the rate OK Access? Why, then they will get confused, and why will they use? So what I did, after collecting all these, defining all these problems, there were a few other challenges as well, like very minimal, very mini challenges, like placeholder. People use placeholders in the input box, right? Like for example, for giving the example to users, hey, use okay at the rate Akash ICICI something, right? People were using the same thing. They didn't know that this is just an example. They were entering the same thing, not their UPI ID. So these were the challenges that try to, help people understand what it is and how to use that. These were the main two problems. So what I did after understanding all of these problems, we created a few options, not just one or two, like few options we created. uh, and we again ourselves only tested, like, okay, let's see if this is the case, how people are going to use this. And same again with the same people, those techies which I was talking about, the smartest people, like like check with them also. And we understood, if we are helping people, let's say helping in a way, if we already are giving them half of the help, let's say if I am providing that PSP's side, like on the side, right? They just need to enter their and also we provided hints like how you can find, we created a link over there, that how you can find your UPI ID, where is your UPI ID, in which app, right? You tap on that, you see, okay, this is my UPI ID, and then you enter. Also we help like how you can choose, what are these PSPs, how you can, which one should you choose. So we try to help them as much as we can, even though this takes time, but we saw the huge, increment in using, right? So this is all about that, and that's how people started using it, and we saw the increment like in UPI method as well, and this was so good, man, to notice.
Yeah, I mean, that's to say, it's also just, like, one of the many projects which you have worked with Instamojo on. And I'm just curious, could we actually probably deep dive into one more? There are so many things here, but I think one of the things which I'm really curious about is like the sign up and onboarding revamp which you did on Android, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
where you increase the completion rate of create store flow and all these things. So I'm curious to know about that because
Yeah,
it
definitely.
seems super interesting.
Yeah, it is, it is, it is. So when we are thinking about onboarding, so onboarding is that we always think like that three, four screens, which, just you see and that's done. But again, at the same time, there are different onboardings as well, like when you actually registering on the product via onboarding, right, while like doing the onboarding. So that's what the part for Instamojo, we were asking our users or doing registering users via the onboarding part. Now this was super tough because businesses, to register businesses, we need some documents, we need pen or something, right, and then we need to check it whether it's right or not, and then we want to tell them, okay, this is fine, now you are registered, and those kind of stuff. So there are two three parts in onboarding, and everything was happening at the same level. Like, let's say if I am coming to the Instamojo, I'll just provide my details, then I'll provide my documents, and then I'll provide the business details as well. Okay, this is my business and all name. And then at the same time, there is a part called online store, so they need to fill that also. So we saw the process was very long, and there is no skip kind of part before there also. I don't remember whether it was the case or not, but I'm sure there was no skip part. Users needed to do all of those, and then only they can register. So again, if you have like this much to do, you will feel like, okay, why, what all do I need to fill? And there is no hint like what, how much it is remaining, right? What all do I need to fill in it? So this was the main problem. So now what we did, we started thinking about what are those mandatory details which we know, which we want at the moment. Without that, we can't just onboard, we can't just register them. So we started thinking about that. We had a chat with legal team or compliance, you can say that, hey, what do you think is really mandatory for you folks to get people on board? Because that was so important. It's not about just design, it's about some legality as well. There are challenges, right? So they told us what were the part which they needed to onboard the user. And that's how we think about all of the things. Okay, this is the part they need, this is the part which we think might help for user, and this is how we can divide into chunks, and those kind of thing we decided. And then finally what we did, we removed everything, we just kept what was mandatory at that time. And after the onboarding, when the users were on the platform, we started doing those coach marker tutorial based things. Okay, hey, you are here, do you want to do this, this will help you in this, those kind of stuff. So this is how we tackled that problem. We just removed the whole long process, created it very simple, just one or two step maybe. And then after onboarding, when the users are onboarded, we asked rest of the details to help them.
So I'm very relatable, especially the legal and compliance part, because
Yeah.
with any fintech product, right, the amount of
Yes.
uh, I mean, things you have to show, like you're mandated to show to a user.
Yes.
That's quite insane. I actually remember like a similar example or a similar problem which Played was trying to solve, where they were trying to educate users about what information they're using and all these things. And I really love how they solved that design. It's like this talk from one of the Played designers itself. It's part of the Designer Fund YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I mean, it was super interesting, like how they solved it and made it so simple for a user to understand. um,
Yeah.
what is happening. I think a lot of fintech products in general go wrong when it comes to these legal and compliance thing, where they just give or they try to either put it in fine print, or they just put so much text that it overwhelms the user. Rather,
Yeah.
if you actually help to educate the user, the user
Yeah,
is more likely to take an action which will be like, in your favor and business
exactly.
needs and everything.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of uh, fintech applications or products do wrong, from at least from
Yes,
what I've
yes.
noticed.
Yeah, true.
Great. So I mean, let's continue with, like, your journey. Like, you've been at Instamojo, then you've also been in Headout, now in Google. So what is actually, like, the day in your life looked like, what is it like to be a designer at Google? How was it different from, like, how your Headout days was?
Yeah,
Like, it can be in terms of the tasks you handle, or it can be like,
yeah,
how you work with the team and all these things. Because
yeah.
from what I remember, Headout, when you still left, right? Headout was a fairly small design team, but, like, handling, like, such a huge product and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah, true, true. Yeah, man. So, Headout was fun. It still is. I know a lot of people still. I talk to them. They are so good people, and the work was also fine because we were working directly with the co-founder Varun, and he is super understanding person. Like he tries to understand everything. So we did again, a lot of thing there. We rebranded the whole Headout when I was there, and things were so cool, and then this pandemic happened and so many things were wrong, not because of us, because of pandemic. So many things had happened at Headout. So if I am comparing both of those, even the Headout was like, it is a great product, but the difference which I see is the user base, right? So Headout comparing to the Google or Google Pay. So uh, what is happening here, the daily active users or maybe the monthly or the overall users, they are like, the numbers are so huge, man. We get 145 or 145 million monthly active users on Google Pay. It's so huge, comparing to the Headout, which at that time I think it was 4 million or something. Yeah, I don't remember exactly, so maybe if I'm wrong, just forgive me. uh, so that is something which I have noticed between those, right? The another thing which I feel different here at Google is people are, first of all, the team is very large, right? Very diverse. So at Google Pay, we are not just from India. So Google Pay is in another country as well. I don't know whether you know about that or not. So it's in Singapore, it's in US as well. So it's everywhere, and the team is also from different regions, right? Or the countries. So teammates are from Singapore, from Japan, from China, and we all work together, right? So that part where you need to come together and try to understand something which you don't have in your country, right? You don't do that, or you do that like differently in a different way. That is really interesting, which I feel you try to understand how people are thinking over there, what is happening in their culture, and again at the same time they also do the same thing. They try to understand what is happening in India, right? How people are using it, and it is pretty hard to understand like how people use UPI here in India for them. So this is really interesting to collaborate and come together and see like how things are working at different places. Now, how the day look like at Google is, it's pretty simple, man. I just we start early because of the team are in different countries like Singapore, so they it's a 2.5 hour gap, so they start early. uh, so we also need to start, like I start at 9. The day is like I check emails, like regular things, check emails and meetings, like how many meetings are today and about what. The one thing which I do mostly is, before starting any meeting now these days, I always go through my, like, think through the questions which I want to ask, like how much value I am going to add there. Is it mandatory to be in that meeting, or can I skip? So those kind of thing I think, and this I learned here at Google only. I saw people how they are, handling these many meetings. So there are few things you need to know. If you are going to add value to that meeting, then you need to be there. If not, can you skip? If you can, you just skip it and do some work, right? Where you can, use your time. The second thing is, if you are going to a meeting, always think about what exactly going to be there, and just create your questions, like do you want to ask anything. I'm not just about those design, not talking about those design critic session, because that goes with the flow, someone is presenting and then you ask in between. But otherwise I'm saying, so this is how the day look like. Also, if I'm starting early, I I just shut down everything early as well. So mostly around 5 6 I just I'm done with the work. And then after that, coming to Google, I never opened the laptop of Google. I always do my stuff. And this is how it works. It's sorted totally. I never got a work outside the office hours. The culture is so good. They do so many things to, for your mental peace, for your health, right? And they don't, just give work to do, like just always do the work. There is a time you work in that, you focus in that, and that's it.
That sounds amazing. Um, yeah, I mean the contrast is very interesting, especially with the user base part. Uh,
Yeah.
it's 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 totally insane to think about, like, what it's like to design for 150 million users and etc.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I'll just continue with my next question, which is so when I was researching about you and everything, all your previous work and stuff, one thing which I came across you was, like, this Medium article which you had written about, like, how to get shortlisted for a job. And I personally really like that. So if you could talk a little bit more about that, like, all your ideas, and I'm sure, like, there are few more things which you would want to add on from the time you have written that article. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So that article is so interesting, and it's really close to me. I When I was writing that article, uh, I talked to a lot of people the same way I was going through. So because I have, and other people also, they face rejections, right? And what are the reasons behind that? Why they face rejection? At what stage they face rejection? What is happening around? How people apply, right? So those many questions. So in my life, I have applied to a lot of companies, not just in India. My favorite place is Berlin. I would someday I'll go there and work. So I just wanted to be there, and I started applying in Germany, more like, or in Europe, or all mostly, but mostly in Berlin. So, and overall here also in Google also I got rejected once before. So what I thought, can I help users, or can I help designers getting shortlisted at least? Let's say, because interviews are so subjective most of the time. Sometimes people like you because of something, but sometimes not. It's so subjective. It's so, sometimes I feel, I mean, it's not a word to use, but I feel this is a luck also. So let's say if we are interviewing and you have a good mood, maybe you will interview me in a different way. But let's say if something is bad, something is wrong there, right? That might go wrong. So there are so many things in an interview to get shortlisted or get hired. And there are so many steps also in design. There are multiple rounds, do this and do that and then do this, and then they decide, okay, this is the right person or not. So what I decided, okay, can I help the designers at least get shortlisted, about, like, at least get shortlisted, because that is the most crucial part. How you apply matters a lot. You need to be unique and different, and that's how people will notice you. Otherwise you are the same, like other 100 or 200 or 500 people who applied. So how you can be unique, how you can use the things which you have to just, uh, so that people notice you. And I have used it everywhere, even at Google also. How I applied, right? I always use this cover letter, which is very customized for me. uh, it's kind of cover letter, you can also say, or you can just create it as a message, or also message, and then you can send it to the people. So in that cover letter there are sections which, like, very small sections, but tells a lot about me, who I am, what I do, what I have done before, what I want to do. So these are the few questions which you need to tell those, like, you like people who are going to hire you, so that they can know, okay, this person looks like a fit for us, or maybe really close to us. Let's just, and also he has or she has a unique way to apply, so let's just see how curious he is or she is, right? So that's how I just started writing that article, to help people at least get shortlisted. And then it's up to you and up to interviewer as well, how you can't fake interviews, to be very honest. People are smart, they understand you are faking it. So you go to interview and then you do whatever you want. If you have done some good work, you will get hired. If you have not, or maybe you are not matching with the requirement, you will not get shortlisted, but or sorry, the hired, you will not get hired. But again, there are so many companies you can apply. But if you are let's say 100 or 1,000 people are applying, and out of them you are the one who got shortlisted, then you have the chance, you got that, you got lucky. I mean, you have the chance to explain, define, and talk about the things which you did in the past, right? So the whole part, writing about that article was to just getting shortlisted at least, and that is the 50% of the time, you already cracked the interview.
Yeah. One of the things which, like, you spoke about in this article is, like, about getting noticed, right? And a lot of times, at least the designers who are just getting started, right, they confuse getting noticed with having a personal brand, right? Getting noticed can also be as simple as, like, having a great portfolio website, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
what are your thoughts on this, like, getting noticed, personal branding, and
Yeah, so I was when I was saying getting noticed, the same way which I started, like, you need your application need to be unique compared to others, right? You can't be just that same regular person who are applying, right? So when I'm saying getting noticed, if you have done something very different, or you have applied in a way which is very different, or at very first glance people see, okay, this application looks very different, let's see, it means you got noticed, people will notice you. So that's what I was trying to say. I mean, send in a way, or create a cover letter or something which helps you standing out from the crowd. So that's the point which I was trying to say when I was saying getting noticed.
got it. Cool. I mean, it's it's amazing, all the things you have done, especially, like, um, the all your case studies, which, like, I've read through, and all the Medium articles also which you have written. I mean, it's wonderful. We have actually reached, like, the end of the episode. I have pretty much asked you, like, all the questions which I had in my mind, and all the
Yeah,
topics which I wanted to cover. So usually
yeah.
how I end my episodes is, like, I have a bunch of rapid fire questions, and so if you're ready, we can, just get started with it.
Let's go.
Yeah. So the first question is, one designer you really admire, and who you have also worked with.
Yeah, I'll say King Siddharth without doubt. So when you admire someone, it's not just about their work; it's about their personality and the nature as well. And I think he's a really good human being, a really good manager, and then really good designer. People might think differently, but I have worked with him for a long time, so I know. So yeah, King Siddharth, I'll say.
Okay. So next question: one designer you would want to work with.
One designer I would want to work with. When there are so many people I want to work with, and you are asking about like anywhere, like in India or anywhere, like
Yeah.
wherever I want. Okay, okay. I have this thing to work with, that person who is like Tony Fedel, I think that I
Mm-hmm.
right from Apple, right, long back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have watched a few podcasts, videos, and the thinking he used to do. So I would love to work. Like if you are asking about, I mean, not
It's
fictional kind of
it's
thing, then I know.
completely hypothetical. Like
Yeah, yeah. So I would definitely like, love to work with him someday and see how things happens. Yeah.
the okay, next question, which it's actually the last question also. If if you had to worry about, like, nothing, like whether it's, like, money, career, anything, like, what would you be working on right now, or what would you be doing? It does not have to do with design.
I'll be dancing. I'll be teaching dancing to everyone. It's a therapy.
That's wonderful, man. That's so nice to know.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it was absolutely amazing having you on the podcast. I love talking with you. I mean, very insightful, especially the conversation around UPI and how you solved for it and all these things.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you were here. Thank you so much for
Same
joining
here,
in.
man. Same here, same here. Thanks again for having me here. Maybe we can catch up later. We can meet and talk about so many things which we
Yeah,
didn't or we couldn't.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I just live across the.
Come over sometime, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Product Stories for more such episodes.